Okay, welcome to Real Conversations. I'm your host, TMac, and my co-host, Joe. How are you, Joe?
Good, TMac. Yourself?
Oh, very good. Today, we're going to find out more about the status of the drought situation in Australia and its wide-reaching impacts. We're joined by Tanya Purcell, and Tanya started a Facebook group to document and bring public awareness about the ongoing drought issue in Australia. The Facebook group that she set up is shown from the perspective of her 4 and 9-year-old daughters and about how they learn about the drought impacts on farmers and Australia as a whole. And it also brings, publicity to the very important topic of impacted farmers from drought. And welcome to Real Conversations, Tanya.
Thank you.
I'll start off with a first question. So what drove you to get started investigating the drought and its impacts?
Well, around this time last year, as I'm sure a lot of you saw all over the news and in newspapers, all the reports about the drought and how it was impacting at that stage New South Wales, was the main focus. And I was just talking, just sort of important to let our girls know, how it impacts us and how farmers were doing it tough and where our food comes from. So I was just, telling Charlotte at the time, who was 4 and Molly was 9. And it just so happened that at the time, here where we are in northeast Victoria, a shower of rain came through, and Charlotte runs out and grabs a little bucket and goes outside to catch the rain. And I just said, what are you doing? And she said, I want to take the rain to the farmers and to the animals to help them out. And then
Wow.
Molly, they both went and got their pocket money, and from there I said to my husband, I said, well, they want to help, and it was an opportunity to, they want to, do something. And I thought, well, why can't we? Why can't we take them and see firsthand and see what we can do to help the farmers? So that's what we did. So that's where it started. And we've been going for over 12 months. So it's something that snowballed, but once you start, it's very hard to stop. Once you meet these farmers and see firsthand the effects, it's really hard to turn your back on them. And sadly, not enough is being done about it. Not enough people are actually helping. So, and with that media, that was probably a week, maybe 2 weeks at a best. And we, that was all on the news, and they showed a few stories, and when even the stories they showed, it wasn't the real nitty gritty parts of the drought. There was a lot worse off areas, and then it's sort of, you just don't hear much more about it. Like every now and again you might hear how the waters run out in some town and things like that, but it was all a big thing at the time, and the media sort of got their 5 minutes out of it, and as with a lot of things, people sort of get bored with hearing about it, and there's something new comes up that they want to help, which is, it's human nature. There's always something that which is good too. If everyone did the same thing, well, there's other things that wouldn't be getting help, so it's good. But at the moment, it's I don't think people appreciate how it's going to impact them personally and as Australia as a whole, and it worries me that not enough is being done about it, and it will impact every one of us. And it's sort of at that point now where a lot of cases it's already too late. And if we don't sort of bring some light on it and do something about it, well, and what's going to happen when our children are grown up too? It's going to be a completely different Australia than what we've got now. So yeah, it's concerning, and it's a massive undertaking. It's not an easy fix either.
Yeah.
So yeah.
With the media, are the media bringing, like you said, they're giving a little snapshot here and there? Are they bringing enough attention, in your view, to this?
No, not at all. No. And even we've speaking to the farmers, and that they're all frustrated too. Like it's it's on there for they do a story, and then you don't hear about it again, and they're not really saying what exactly you can do or how exactly you can help, and they're sort of they publicise who they want, and they're sort of you sort of got to wonder what they're getting out of it too, and why they're just being select about who they're publicising and what they're publicising. And a lot of the charities, I find we've seen firsthand too that they need to be held accountable for what they're doing too, and what they're not doing in a lot of cases, and people just think, oh, they give money to the big charities and they think, oh, that's all good, we've done our bit, but you've got to follow up where that money is going and if it's going to the to the right people, and there's a lot of that we're seeing that it's a very hard one because I don't like bagging them, but then at the same time there's a lot of things that need to be sort of done about it too, and people are donating money thinking that it's going to the right. I mean, sure, there's some people that are getting it, yes, and there's, but a lot of it there's a, for instance, the quality of the hay they're getting, like it's some of it's inedible. Like some poor person donated money thinking they're getting hay, and it's the quality is just there's no point in giving it if they can't eat the load of hay that they've got. And a lot of people are missing out too, which is, I know it's so widespread and it's hard, but I just think that needs to be, something more could be done in that area too. Like, there's a lot of little groups, like even the Gippsland, the Hayfield Lions Club, that are helping the farmers. They're sort of going direct, and all the money's going straight to the farmers. They're not taking money out of it for different costs. They're volunteers that are down there, going straight to where it's needed. And we've seen firsthand. We've done a bit of work with them. So
is that sorry to interrupt there. Did you say that was Gippsland farmers?
Yeah. So
okay.
That's a Wellington Shire. So it's a Wellington Shire. So sort of the places around Sale, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't realise that Gippsland is in drought either. But they sort of, you just don't. If you drive on the freeway, you just think, oh, it looks all green. But a lot of all that's irrigated, and it's dairy farmers. But if you go, sort of off the beaten track, it's a different sort of drought there. It's all the paddocks are full of sand. Like it's just keeps, because it's such dry winds, it's just blowing sand in, and even if they do get a little bit of rain, it's really hard for the grass to obviously go through the thick.
So when we talk the drought, like whereabouts, what are the areas? Is it so it's Gippsland, and we're talking about New South Wales, lots of parts of Queensland. Where is the worst hit drought areas?
Well, pretty much, if you say so Victoria, I mean, a lot of Victoria has been, I mean, even where we are here, people say, we've had drought. I mean, it's been dry and we haven't had the rain we've had, which is like that in a lot of places. But like Gippsland, they're going in, well, some of the third, fourth year with very little or no rain. So, and Victoria is very different how they declare. Like, they're not declaring it drought. It's very different how that they do things in New South Wales, and it's sort of a lot harder to say you're in drought. And then it's very hard to get Daniel Andrews to actually go to an ear to go and have a look firsthand. But New South Wales, that's pretty much, you'd nearly say 100% in drought. Like there's little pockets that might have had a bit of rain, but you're nowhere near what needs. And then Queensland, that's probably 60-70%. But then they had those, the floods. So, I mean, there has wiped out like over 500,000 cattle in one hit. So, and now they're sort of got facing drought as well. So you think, well, they got too much rain in one hit, which wasn't actually much benefit to it at all. Actually, did more damage. So it's so widespread that pretty much.
Does it go further to South Australia as well and over to WA? Are they in drought as well?
It is. I mean, they're just starting to say now that parts of Tasmania. I don't know much about Tasmania, but definitely South Australia. I mean, even Northern Territory. Those sort of places which they are known to be drier, but they're not getting the rainfall that they normally get either. So it's tougher for a lot of area too. And whereas a lot of the hay has come from South Australia and like Western Australia, Victoria, but it's all been depleted there, or they're starting to hold back and think, well, we need to hold on to it too. Like, and a lot of it's been like our hay's been exported too, which they might be making more money out of it, but then what's happening? It's not helping Australians either. So that's another tricky one too. So what is good quality we mightn't be getting either. So, and with grain and everything. So that's another aspect of it as well. So so it's a wide area.
Tanya, let me ask you a question. What do you do to bring awareness about the drought to the public? Now, we know that you do have a Facebook page that you've been heavily involved, as well as some of the, like Gippsland farmers and some of the other farming communities.
Hmm.
Is there anything else that we could actually maybe talk about and also help you spread some awareness?
Um, well, I mean, we're not a registered charity or anything. We're just basically just a family who have, trying to do their best just to get the word out there. So um, when we first started off, we just travelled for 3 or 4 weeks and didn't tell anyone what we were doing. But as we were going, like the media and like say like Tamworth, Fairfax Media contacted us and said, it'd be a good story to raise awareness because a 4-year-old wanting to help sort of makes other people think, well, what can we do if a 4-year-old can do it? So they did different news reports when we were travelling in different areas, and it's surprising what I mean. I don't publicise everything that goes on, but from that, like different areas sort of contacted us and said, "Oh, can we adopt a farmer?" So we've had
Oh,
little people and people that might be well off. Like one instance, there was a lady, single lady, sort of in late 60s, very well off, living in a town by herself, had no family. She ended up there's a family that really needed help that we were helping, but she ended up taking over and so she pays the kids' school fees. She was paying their rates. She was all sorts of things, and she ended up at Christmas. They all had a Christmas together, and she bought them everything, and she thought it was lovely because she doesn't have family. So there's so many little things like that that we don't, it's sort of between them, and we don't. Once it's sort of they've taken over, we sort of let them do their
yeah,
thing. But little groups have started up in on the coast of New South Wales. They've gone and done little food drives and that. So it's sort of
very nice.
so
Yeah,
when we're traveling, we sort of do things and say, we go to different towns and media sort of come to like Dubbo. They came and did a story, and from that they the areas there went and did things to help, like there's different church groups and schools and stuff. So it's sort of depends where we are and what we're doing at the time as to what
yeah.
I
So
mean,
you're heavily involved with communities as well as online and actually visiting the
well,
affected farms.
yeah, it's sort of it just sort of happens that way too. And a lot of people turn up. It's funny how like a lot of things have been happening sort of coincidence. Like we meet people for different reasons, and that sort of follows on from there. It's sort of it just depends where we are and what happens at the time. People sort of I don't know how a lot of the times. Like we've had a big group in Sydney heard about what we were doing, and so they got on board with United Petroleum, and they ended up we got like $30,000 worth of fuel cards,
Wow.
and then truckloads of food, and so many things that so I didn't ask them; they just sort of found us. So it's funny how things have happened just from people sharing things on Facebook, or we might share a story, and then that sort of might tug at someone's heartstrings. People find different things, like even a lot of the
Absolutely.
stories, we don't cover. Like we sort of ask the farmers, like, do you want photos taken, or do you want your story told? And a lot of them don't, so we respect that. But the ones that do, we've share their story and taking photos of where they live, and you'd be surprised where that gets shared, and then people sort of they might see something that just resonates with them, and then so a lot of things behind the scenes get done. So they might start writing letters to them, and that's a big thing too. Like they're feeling very very isolated and very alone. And when you go, even just to have a couple with them, like they want someone to talk to and just sit there and sort of share the burden a little bit too, because it's strange what you think if you're feeling that way that they'd all sort of bond together, but it's everywhere you go. It's sort of there's so much depression around. It's incredible how many
Yeah,
and they don't. I don't know if it's a male thing as such, but they don't tend to want to burden their mates or their neighbours, or so they've all been very isolated and kept away from each other because they don't want to. That's all they seem to be talking about is the weather, and they're all down. So they instead of the normal barbecues or catching up at a footy game or something, they're not doing it, and so
mm.
that's making very
That is
isolating.
pretty sad. Yeah,
Yeah. So and you naturally go, might have a beer at the pub or something, and you bond, you talk, and they're not wanting to burden their wives or their kids, so they're bottling it up. So once you start, like we pretty much every day we get at least one farmer contacting us. It might be just for a phone call or text message, or just to let us know something or want to talk about something. And sadly, I've had to make those phone calls, at 3 a.m, and that they're going to do, they're thinking about hurting themselves, and that it's a big thing to take on that too. But it's so
It's full
widespread. Yeah. But if you're not asking that question either, they're not going to be, who are they going to tell? So
yeah.
we,
And just with just with the impacts on the farmers and the communities and their families. So you're talking about like depression and maybe even like potential for suicide. And has that been a big impact in terms of suicide rates?
And I don't. We've discussed that with different like the media and doctors up there, and the thing is, if they say if they publicise it, they seem to get more of them. It's like if someone who's in that state, they see it or they hear about it, it sort of not so much gives them the idea because it's already there, but they said it sort of creates a snowball effect. Like once one starts doing it, they'll hit next week. You'll hear the neighbour, and it's sort of it's strange.
Is that your view?
Pardon?
Do you think, from your experience and from what you've seen, is that your view? Like if people do talk
notice,
about it?
Yeah. So it's a very hard. I mean, you want to shed light on it, but it's a very hard one too, because we've had one of our farmers take his own life. So I've been trying to support his wife and his 2 little kids, and that's been just dreadful. And the sad thing is they think that it's actually helping their family. They think that they're going to get life insurance and that'll help them, but the sad reality is it doesn't work that way all the time. Like they don't get their life insurance, so all that's really happened is it's just sort of burdened them, further, and they put, the family's left without a husband or a father. So, and they just
how are the families impacted by whether it's suicide or just depression of the farmer? How are they and the communities? Some of these are very small towns, and everyone sort of, I'm assuming everyone sort of, most people know each other in the town type of thing. How is it impacting those sort of smaller towns? Like Hayfield's pretty small, for example.
Yeah, it's a well, for New South Wales, for instance, there's a you go and visit a farm and you start talking to them, they get to trust you, and then they'll start saying, such and such, he took his own life, and such and such, and they all know somebody, and it's the numbers are just way too high, and to try and get them help, I found that really difficult. Like to ring someone and say, can you go see them, or can is there someone who can help them? I'm finding that extremely tough too. Like there should be
response
people.
Are you getting? Like when you ring up to ask for help for these farmers with these predicaments, what do they say? They'll go on the list, or
there's just not enough people to help them. That's basically what it is. And there's so like when we visited, it could take a day or two to get to these different places. They're not all when you say neighbours, they could be a couple of hours apart. So some might be closer, but so and that makes you panic. You sort of think, oh God, what do you do? And luckily, in some way or another, I've had a neighbour one time. I've called a neighbour. There's been someone I can get there, but it still needs to be. There needs to be more money and resources put into that. Like that's it's such an important. It's so widespread, and it's going to be a obvious result from this. And the part of it too is the guilt they're feeling. Like majority of these farmers are fifth or sixth generation farmers. So all their parents, their grandparents have gone through this, and they've got through all these droughts, and and they've got to that point now where the guilt they're feeling, that they're worried they're not going to be able to pass this on to their children, and they've let down their parents and the generations before them, and they feel like a failure. They're not seeing the bigger picture, and they've done everything they could. This drought wasn't, when you go by like the Bureau of Meteorology, they've changed how they've done how they're doing their readings. Like the last 5 years, it's changed. So they're not exactly accurate, and their predictions are so far, they're getting it so far wrong. They should be held accountable too. Like, and that's what a lot of the farms are getting frustrated with. Like years ago, like if you were going to say, if you're going to buy a stock, you look at the long range forecast and you think, well, we're going to have a drier than average year, wetter than average, whatever it might be. So then you might plant more crops, you might buy more hay, you might buy less, you might buy more stock. So they've gone off this forecast, which wasn't meant to be this dry for this long. So they've
Yeah.
prepared as well as they could, judging by what they've had to go by. And then this has gone way beyond what they've planned for and what they were told was going to happen. So people don't really, they sort of go, why didn't they plan for it? And then the ones in Queensland, like they've been going 8 years in drought. How do you plan for that? And they weren't told that was going to, by their weather predictions, this
Yeah,
wasn't
you can
going
only
to
go by what they. You can only go by what the information you've been presented from the meteorology group.
This does bring up a question for me as well, though. As far as farmers go, do you think they don't get compensated well enough for what they do? Because it seems to me that money is a big issue, obviously, and a lot of them are struggling with that aspect. Combined with the droughts, it makes it very hard. But do you think, in general, do they get compensated well for what they do?
I know personally that they feel very unappreciated. Like they're and as as they say, like they're basically without, and that's the thing too, is what I'm worried about. Without them, we wouldn't be having our meat, our vegetables, our wool, even alcohol comes from farming. There's so many things that we need our farmers for, and your milk, your dairy products. And what scares me is, which is already happening, but people just don't want to know about it, or they don't want to publicise it, is we're already getting to that point where they're already starting to talk about we're importing milk from China that's powdered milk, and our vegetables it'll start to happen. And you think, well, all the debacle with the frozen vegetables that were imported, all how people were getting sick and what was found in that. Like, do we really want to be getting our meat, on ships brought over from China? I mean, we need to start. It is concerning, and you look at it, the cattle, like people are selling their breeding stock. So instead of selling steers for meat, they're now selling their breeding stock. So the cows, they're getting sold. So they're obviously not going to be breeding. So our meat is going to be in decline rapidly. So the prices for us are going to go up. And if they're still exporting, I mean, it's going to be a shortage. So the cost of everything's going to go up. The quality, it's concerning. So apart from, there's so many people, have different opinions on the drought and the farms and whatever. But at the end of the day, we need our farmers. Like, we need it to be successful. We need it to. So people need to start, start worrying about it, and whether it be paying for premium milk at the supermarkets, or there's a lot of things you can be doing with, shopping wise, and it might cost you extra, $1 or $2 more, but in the long-term scheme of things, I'd rather be paying a couple of dollars more now instead of getting imported milk or whatever it might be. So
absolutely,
so it is concerning, and it's concerning how little's been done about it. That's what's worrying me.
What's the government doing to assist farmers, like the state level and the national level, federal level?
Not enough. To try and get them to talk about.
That was state. Like, what's the state government doing for Victorian farmers in drought in Gippsland, for example?
Well, they won't declare it as drought. It's different. So if you declare it as drought, they've got to say, well, they've got to do more about it. So they're just saying it's a low rainfall area. So the area we went to at Gippsland, there's a group there, and some of the farmers had lobbied, and what they got out of it was a $700 Visa card that has to be spent in their towns, because I mean they're struggling too, but which is great. But how far is $700 going to go? In reality. So yes, it's good, but it's not going to change the world. I'd like to see, for instance, even if they paid their rates, for them, or something like, something a bit more substantial, that like they did a thing where in these areas they were going to pay for their kids' school fees, but it wasn't just for these farmers. It was, they weren't checking if they were the people actually needed it. It was just that they just chose an area and said, we'll pay for your school fees because you're in that area. And a lot of these farmers are, in their 60s or whatever. They haven't got kids at school. So that, like, big deal. That didn't really help them out. So there really is hardly anything that's being done. It's nothing substantial that's going to make any difference. So, and there's so much more that can be done, but they sort of, it seems to be the Melbourne.
The federal level. What about the federal level?
again, nothing. You hear about like when we were traveling, was when we first went, was when they said they were going to give these grants and stuff. But when you look at the paperwork, it was incredible what they had to provide, and then they had to get their tax done at that time to see what their worth was at the time. But it could cost them $1,200. They haven't got the money to go do that all the time to go and do extra. And the paperwork, we looked through it, and I think you need a degree to get through it. So they sort of knew that, and sort of, it was like they set them up for failure. And the ones that did apply for it, they all these different things why they couldn't get it was incredible. And you just think it was. So I really don't know who actually got that money. You know how they said they were going to hand out. Yeah, at the time I think it was 7,000, or one was 12 or 7 or whatever it was. I honestly don't know anyone who got that. So, and then it was stretched out anyway. But so what you hear and what you think they're getting is very different than what they're actually getting when you actually talk to the farmers and what help they've actually. The only thing that some of them were getting was they were getting subsidised for cartage, like might be for for their hay, or if they had to cart stock to to be sold or whatever, to move them. So that was getting subsidised. So they said that was a great help. Some areas were getting a load of water from the government. That was a free load of water. That's for domestic, for their own tanks, not for stock. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's not an easy solution. I mean, everyone's got different needs, and and it's so widespread, like the cost of but.
What
but
about the actual products that the farmers are producing? And so, sorry to cut you off there, Tanya, but maybe we need to look at what kind of products we put out there. Now, I know until recently we had a lot of meat exports, and we had certain vegetables that we stick to. But maybe is there a chance we could look into alternative options, something that's more that's easier to grow in the drought, or I don't know.
They are doing that. There is some that have tried that, and they've got rid of their stock and they've done whatever. But I mean, in reality, things still need water, and that's
no matter what it is.
So they have tried it. They've even some of the farms around here, they've already trying different things to be so-called drought-proof their properties, and they're trying new ways. But it costs money, when they're, if you say I'll go and try something new now, they haven't even got money to feed their kids. So how do you try something new when you've got nothing to work with, and you've just got a barren paddock with no money? Like it's not that easy either to say, well, have a go at this, and the banks aren't giving them any more loans, and then they're not letting some of them sell up because they've got it under a business loan, and basically the banks own them. So it's they're waiting for them to fail, and there's so many they're just walked off. They're not, and even whole towns, like they're not selling, they're just walking out. And then what happens then? Like if they've got nothing left, so where do they live? They're trying to get work, but if every job now wants a bit of something on a bit of paper to say you're qualified in this, and they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're extremely smart and capable people, but they know how to run a farm, and they've learnt their own ways to do things. But as far as education wise and something on a bit of paper, they haven't got it. So someone in their 20s or 30s that's got all these certificates, they're going to get the job over them. If there's jobs around, like there's not that many jobs around. So it's I mean, to try something else is good if they can. And I know some who have. Some have even done farm stays, like they've turning their place into like camping place. They've tried that, but even then, it's not many people want to go to a dry paddock. They haven't got the rivers are dry, so that they can't get people to stay there. I mean, when you see their photos, their places are gorgeous in the the right time of year. But are you really going to want to go and stay in in a bit of a dirt paddock? So they're trying, but it's just.
And with water management, you talked about water management before, just a little bit. Government helped a little bit with the water. What can be done in relation to that? We hear about like diverting water from like the Murray River and other rivers and so forth. Like, is that a viable option, or what can be done with water to help the farmers?
I'd love I'd love
What do
to
you
be
think would happen?
even the flood water, like the water just sitting there getting wasted and washed out to the sea. I'd love that to be piped down and being used. But the
Pipe
it's
down from
very
where?
when the floods
From
were in
Queensland?
Queensland, that this is all getting washed out to the ocean. But I mean, that could have been piped down. Money could have been spent earlier where people were. That was a big thing years ago. That was they didn't want to put money into it. But in the scheme of things, that could have been a massive different effect now if that had been done. That water was just sat there and wasted. So the
Desalination plants like we've got in Victoria. Is that an option to help the farmers?
it might have to be. I mean, what at this stage? I mean, the thing is, like, even like places in New South Wales, like the towns, apart from their bores drying up, the actual their dams are empty, their creeks are empty, but their actual town supplies are just are getting cleaned out. Like even places like Dubbo and Tamworth, they're very big places to be for the actual town water. They're the town water is getting dried up. So, and there other little places like Walgett and that. They're getting truckloads taken there, but they're taking off another town who they're going to run out too. So it's not just the actual stock; it's the actual people living there that are it's running out rapidly, and that again that's something that's not not widely talked about either. Like people are doing water drives and taking bottled water up to them, but how long can that last? That's
it's not viable.
No, they're not showering. They're not and we met these teenage girls who are driving to these truck stops to have showers and stuff, and then they can't wash their clothes. It's that's not that's not practical either. I mean, how long is that going to last? So it's not even. I mean, yes, the stock and all that sort of stuff, but it's so more. I mean, there's we can't even get water for humans, so that's I don't know the easy solution to that, but it's not a it's something that's not been looked at enough either. Like even the farmers around Dubbo and Tamworth, there's what I couldn't understand is when we were driving through Tamworth, like all around the town, they've got their sprinklers on, in the middle of the day, watering their lawn, but you got farmers out there who can't even get water rights to water their cattle. I'm thinking, and they're saying like the council just didn't put the water restrictions in when they should have, and who's being held accountable for that? Like because they were just so blasé with their water restrictions, that now has resulted in they're panicking now, thinking, well, what are we going to do? And they're buying water in, but just simple things like that. Like that's it's not rocket science. You just got to. They should have had their water restrictions in a couple of years ago, knowing that the drought was there. So I don't understand.
Seems to me like it's just not taken seriously enough.
It's not, and a lot of it, a lot of the shires too, like they all do things differently. But like you hear some of the stories of that too, you think, how are they getting away with what they're doing? And and why aren't they being looked into? It's just the farmers are frustrated, the people who live there are frustrated, but on a government level, no one's doing anything about it. So, and it's so widespread. Like every place you go to is the same story. So, it's not an easy fix either. But I think they're going to get to that point where it's nearly too late, and they're going to go, "Oh, we should have done this and we should have done that." But
it is a shame. I mean, let's hope somebody does hear us or listen to this one. And look, I invite anybody out there that does have anything to do in regards of this subject to somebody that is maybe government affiliated or one of those organizations. Please give us a call, send us an email or something. We'll be happy to talk to you too.
Yeah.
Just on that point, Joe, so in terms of, actually to Tanya, in terms of environmental groups, we hear a lot about, we're from Melbourne and we hear a lot about environmental climate change and so forth. Are any of those sort of environmental groups reaching out to people like yourself or the farmers or farmer groups to see what they can assist with at all?
Not in a positive way, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. It's
makes you wonder though. It's really strange. I mean, we do have all this money that we spend on a lot of other things. Because I mean, I live more in Melbourne, more city-wise, and I mean, money goes wasted on many things. And then it's surprising to see what a difference it is in the country.
I don't think that I don't. Without, I mean, it's a very hard topic to get onto. The whole climate change thing. It's when you actually when you go to these farmers and you see their, say their rain records and their all these different things, I think a lot of people are wanting to blame farmers and climate change on the drought, but there's a lot of other issues when you actually look at it. Which, I mean, it's another whole issue in itself. It's a lot of ins and outs of that, and it sort of opens your eyes. I think even all that needs to be looked into further, and you sort of got to wonder who's getting the money out of this, out of trying to prove these things. I just think, I'm a bit skeptical of a lot of things. But as far as, there hasn't been a lot of
no one's reached out to you guys. Okay, so no one's really reached out from the environmental group. So
No.
if anyone, I suppose, like you're saying there before, Joe, like if someone from an environmental group can reach out to Tanya and assist and see what they can do to help the farmers, that would be great too.
Absolutely, and I mean, on our side as well, we'll have all the links and Facebook and everything linked up as well. So everybody, feel free to check out Tanya's Facebook page on there as well.
Yep, and that's a different issue again too. But even the animal activists, they're sort of causing that's another issue in itself too, as far as outside people coming in. I mean, there is probably positive ways that they could be doing things to help in other ways too, which is and that's probably put a negative light on a lot of the farming area too, which is it's sort of not helping the bigger picture either.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it's not sort of a branch of environmental in another way, but so it's there's so many, even like every person, there's so many little things we all could be doing, part of the massive scheme of things, like even and people don't realize.
Give us three things. Give us three things that we can do to assist with this.
Well, the big thing is if you holiday in these towns, like you're putting money into these towns, which are going to be even the community groups who help the farms in these towns. Like if you went and instead of going, on the main highways to places, just go into these little, go through these little towns, stop and have a coffee, stay in their motels, camp, go, even going through these places, if you can, spare an extra day on your holiday and say, go turn up at a CWA or the Rotary groups and just say, is there some hampers that we can hand out to farmers on the way past? Because they just haven't got, these people have been doing it for, some of them 8 years, and a lot of them are elderly, and they're doing it every day, visiting these farmers. And it's a lot emotionally too to take on hearing their stories. And it might be nice if you could spare that time to go and say, okay, I can, give a day helping pack some, hampers, or go visit a farm and just sit there and have a cuppa with a farmer and listen to their stories. And just, you don't have to offer advice, but just sit there and just listen to them. And it just, if in the supermarket, you can, it doesn't take much to see what's Australian grown and where it's come from. And, you might pay a little bit more, but it's going to, it could be helping save some farm, or, it's, I mean, there's so many things you can do, but just at the biggest thing, if you could just, visit these places and see firsthand. And once you go through, not on the main areas, and just go to these little places in New South Wales, Queensland, you'll see for yourself, and and you'll see why we actually need to help, and then let your friends know. Tell people that it is happening. We, farmers need our help, and for selfish reasons too. Like, we need our farmers. We need to be doing stuff. We need to be getting the word out there, and it's surprising. Nothing against Melbourne or Sydney people or Melbourne, but even the Sydney group that came with us and the Melbourne group, like, even at Gippsland, they had no idea they're in drought. And they're like, the guys who came with us, they said, oh, we got no idea. We honestly had no idea. We thought the drought was over. And you're like, well, so we don't, in the cities, you don't hear about it. You just sort of do.
I haven't seen it on TV recently since, I don't know, maybe a year ago or something, one little ad.
Yeah. So I think it'd be good if you do go on these holidays, you take photos, you share it on your own, social media, and get the word out there. I think photos and seeing what it looks like actually brings it home to people and go, wow, that, I didn't realize it was that bad. So that's why we do, when we go in our group, we share things, and so people see it and go, well, I honestly didn't think it was that bad. So, something as simple as that, just to let people know, and to let the farmers know you're supporting them. You're wanting to help. You're sharing their plight. Because they just feel very alone and doing it tough.
So we need more road trips to get out there, spend the money in the communities, to help if you can help. dispersing the packages and the hampers off to the farmers.
Yeah, or even just helping in the actual, where they do the hampers and actually help pack them and things like that.
Right.
So I'm full of. I've got to. I'm not letting you have any equipment. It's just so many. I mean, I think in 12 months, this is literally so many things we've seen and heard, and you take their stories on personally, and you know what they're going through, and it just gets to that point where it's frustrating that you're trying to get them help, and it's, you get so many closed doors. So I think I've got a lot to say.
What do you personally think the future of the Australian farming industry is going to look like, Tanya?
I think even sadly now it's a lot worse off than what we realise even now. So the future, I mean, to be honest, I don't see much of a future if it continues the way it is. And so
how long do we have? How long do we have? Do you reckon? Not much of a future, but how long do you think that will be? Is that 5 years, 20 years?
Realistically, though, you look through this next summer. They're saying that this next summer is going to be dry, and I don't know any of the farmers that we're helping. I don't know any of them that are going to, again, even the next few months that are going to sustain it. They've pretty much destocked. They're already talking about walking off it. So I don't know anyone who's going to be actually going to sustain this. So it's not going to be 5 years. I mean, it's going to be a lot sooner. This summer is going to be a big test to see who can actually hang out for another summer. Yeah, it really is that bad. I mean, there's the water supply for the towns aren't there. So even that, what's going to happen with them? These towns that have, all the businesses. Even it's strange. Like, you go to normally a country town. There's normally always a pub. That's normally the place where the community get together. It's, you have a feed. The pubs are boarded up. Like that, they haven't even got a pub. Like in the supermarkets, they've shut down. So they're just the basics. They've got to then travel, an extra, it could be an hour or a couple of hours to go to a bigger town just to get their basics. And, it's still fuel, it's time, it's all these little things. So if we can, help keep these little towns going, then it is going to actually help the farmers in the long run too. So, and how I don't know, on the outskirts of Melbourne, I'm not sure, but there's like, like you go to the farm, there's farm gate, you can actually buy direct from the farms. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and there's even like online sites that actually you can buy. They buy direct from the farmers, so you can buy them. They deliver it to your door. There's one in Melbourne that does that. So,
do you have a name of that site by any chance?
I think it's Big Farm, but yeah, Aussie Farmers Direct. Well, there's a lot of I've gone blank. There's a few of them that I share on our group, but
okay, so they can all be found on your Facebook page.
I'll go through and find some more and put them on another link altogether. But yeah, there's even
just a link when you get a chance.
Yeah, that'll be great.
So there's different things like that. You don't have to go anywhere. You can actually get it delivered to your door. There's a lot of little things that we can change ourselves. And if you do want to actually donate, I'd rather you see, like, there's the Hayfield Lions Club. They've got an actual group that they do things, and that's, you're seeing things get done directly. So you're not paying for all these admins and all these extra costs. You're actually seeing all that money go direct. So there's little groups like that.
And with companies like that, do we have also alternatives such as organics or anything like that? Or
with
can
Aussie
you tell us just a little bit? Yeah, so with those sites where you can get products from farmers directly, do we have alternatives to actually go organic, or do you have any options?
If you just Google, you just go on. There's so many options. Like there's even, I mean, from New South Wales, even like we're at New Mansfield, there's actually a company called Barmer Meats that comes down from New South Wales. They come down, deliver to our town, and so we get, there's organic meats there you can get. There's
so they can guarantee that it's like hormone free and all that stuff.
Yeah. So there's actually quite a few, and even like I'm just going by what I know around us, but there's like Millerwood chickens. They supply, they're organic. They supply you can buy around area. I'm not sure in Melbourne, but around a lot of places, if you just go on wherever you are nearby, if you put in that organic, even on Facebook, you find a lot. That's what I've been doing myself.
Yeah.
Actually, you can, and like we were going when we went to Gippsland, I searched places there. So, like Thorpedale potatoes, I don't know if you know that they stock a lot of the farm produce around. So if you're going past there, you can stop in there, and they have the Gippsland dairy products there. They have other organic things in their store. So there's a lot of little places you can just depends where you are and if you know how close you want to.
Yeah.
Even the farmers markets. I don't know if there's farmers markets around you. That's always a good place.
Yeah.
They come there, you can support them. Go do your veggie shop there, do things like that. And a lot of them are organic. All the ones we have here are. So yeah, there's so many different little things you can all do. But there's definitely organic farming. You just got to just search for it, whatever area you're in.
Because it's a big thing right now as well, obviously, just for health reasons, and
Yeah.
I can see that a lot of public is being more aware of what they, what kind of food they're consuming. So I think that those two things could kind of help each other out.
Yeah, and I do try to myself as well. Just for far as what your pesticides and stuff on it, and for your children, I always try to do it ourselves too. But so I know the ones where I am because you just sort of go and I know where to get them. But as far as Melbourne, there's probably you're probably going to get a lot more variety than what we have here. But
yeah, but at the same time, though, when you have a lot of variety, it's a bit hard to choose and what's right, what's wrong. Is it really organic? Is it not? We get a lot of stuff that we just aren't sure of ourselves as well.
Yeah. So I prefer going direct than going to the big supermarkets. I like to know, you can like a lot of these farms, like you actually see where your stuff's growing. You know the people that are growing it. Even locally we have meat, organic meat. You know where it's coming from. So that's but that's something I prefer to do. But not everyone's got the time to go around.
Of course, or sometimes the money as well. Sometimes it does tend to cost more if you buy organic.
Yeah, but like farmers markets, they're always a good start too. And you can look up. I know it takes a bit more time, but you can look up and check that they're certified too. Like you can go and check their records. You don't just go by what they're telling you. Actually look it up and do your research, which I know it takes time. But if it's and not it depends where you go, but not everything is actually a lot more money. Like, and a lot of these things, even bigger supermarkets, like they might add a lot of water to the say Mint State, they add things to add weight. So you might think, oh, well, I'm getting a good buy here, but if you're getting organic, you might be actually getting better value for your money anyway. So it's not necessarily, you're not cheap is not always better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tanya, just in terms of like out of all the areas of farming, cattle and crops and so forth, what's more in jeopardy? Dairy is the other one. What's the one with the most impact, with the largest amount of jeopardy? Like which one's going to fail the quickest if we don't act? If people aren't acting?
Well, crops wise, I mean they're just not growing, so that's sort of pretty much that is it's non-existent, and you need a lot of the crops you need to feed the grain stuff to feed the cattle. So that's a probably already is already impacted. Dairy, that's sort of when you talk to the dairy farmers, a lot of them aren't even they're actually running at a loss. So, and that's what people don't understand. They say they might, they say they had $1 for an extra 10 cents on the bigger supermarkets. They're not actually getting that. That's the biggest load of what. But they might be getting 1% out of it.
Oh, right. So the supermarket's
so what they say they get. Sorry.
So is the supermarket getting out of that 10 cents? Is the other supermarkets really getting 9 cents out of the 10 cents, and 1 cent goes to the farmer?
The farmers are supposed to be getting, but they're not. So the supermarkets are getting the money, but the actual, when you go down the line, the farmers actually aren't getting more. So what you think you think you're paying more and they're getting this money, but the farmers they might be getting 1% out of that extra money that you're paying. So you still need to, if you're buying the premium quality, you're more chance that the farmers are going to be getting more money for it. So and as far as dairy are probably they're declining rapidly, but then so I mean it's hard to say what's what. But then all the beef, I mean and the sheep, they're sort of they're getting sold up. I don't know what's going to happen in the future for that. Like they're all getting, the market at the moment is just getting swamped with your cattle and your sheep, because the farmers need to. They can't afford to feed them anymore. They're all they've got to get rid of them. So you're getting so much, but the only good thing is at the moment is the farmers are actually getting in different areas, but they like in New South, they're actually getting reasonably good money for their sheep, which the last drought people were shooting. They had to shoot their stock, and they They couldn't even afford the bullets. So that's the only positive, is they actually are getting money for it. But at the moment there's so much that what's going to happen next year? Well, they can't hold on to their stock. So, it's not going to take long. You think, well, once this is gone, what happens then? If they can't feed and water it, and majority, they said spring was majority say they were going to hold out till spring, like this spring, and see if we got any rain through winter. And you need the ground to be moist for your spring the grasses to grow. So they haven't had that rain. So the grass, they haven't, and the temperatures have been all over the place. So they actually haven't had even if they hadn't had rain, the ground it's not moist enough to actually grow. So, and a lot of it, if they do get some rain, it might wash away the actual topsoil, which has got the seed in it for the grass anyway. So it actually hasn't done any benefit at all, except just wash away the actual seed. So in the scheme of things, I don't know what's going to happen next year. As far as, say, if you meat, things like that, I don't know what's going to happen there. Like, it's all right now for us, but it's going to get to that point where we just, it's going to cost a fortune to get meat and things like that. So, and what happens to all these farms and farmers? Like, it in reality, if they can either get work or somehow get through this drought, until the end, it's going to take at least a minimum of 3 years before they get back to where they were. But then the debt that they're in is incredible. But when you hear the figures, it's just like one farm that we're talking millions, and the banks just keep handing them money. Oh yeah, keep going, and you think, well, when does that stop? Like, it's not just a few 100,000, it's million, and because the hay and the feed, and that's the thing, they've put so much money into feeding this stock for so long, and now they get to that point, they go, well, do we keep trying to hang out as long as we can because we've already spent so much? Do we spend a little bit more, just to try and hold on and hope it rains, or do we sell now and they won't make their money back, but that you cut your losses because we can't afford to feed them? So they're all at different stages. Like, some may have got a little bit of rain, but then you get the green drought too. I don't know if you know much about that, but like, you might get a bit of rain and people look at the paddock and go, oh, they've got rain, it's grass. But it's actually, because the ground's so poor, all you're getting is, weeds. So if the stock eat this, and they haven't had anything green for so long, if they eat it, they actually get sick from it, and they get bloat, and it can kill them.
Wow.
So it's actually, you think, oh, they've got a bit of rain, that's great. It's not that simple. It can actually be worse for them unless they get they need follow up. So if you get a shower rain, you at least need 20 mil to actually, or more, but 20 mil to make it even look like it's rained. And then you've got to have follow up. So at least 3 follow ups.
Consistent rain, yeah.
Yeah, close by to actually make a difference. So if they get one shower rain, it's going to, and the dry winds too, like, it's different. Say in New South, it's that constant dry wind. So even if it gets a bit of rain, it just dries out so quickly. So,
The climate is just very tough.
Yeah. So and they've all said too, they haven't seen it quite like this for so long. Like, there's normally, even with other droughts, there's been a little bit of a break in between, but it's just been a constant this time. That it's just that they don't know. It's sort of, it's out of what they know, and even their parents, their grandparents, they're all sort of saying it's out of the ordinary. And how do you prepare for something when you don't know when the end is? Like, if you hear the long range forecast, the last time they said, it's going to be rain, it's going to be a wet spring. I'm like, well, no, So a lot of them hung out thinking that they were going to get this rain this time, and it didn't happen. So, and then even this week, like, you hear on some of our farmers around Tamworth and Dubbo, they said, people go, oh yeah, you're supposed to be getting rain this week, it's going to be great, and they talk it up. They got nothing. But it's a lot of mental. You're getting your hopes set on this rain, which is their livelihood, and then it doesn't happen. To us, it's like, oh yeah, whatever, maybe next week, whatever. But that's it. They're relying on it, and they're whole day focused on if it's raining. They're checking the rain gate. They're checking their weather forecast. If the clouds. It's just there's so many. We just don't appreciate really. You might complain about the rain because it's annoying you, but they're actually they need it. So, and I really don't know.
It's true. That is true. One thing in the cities, working in the city, that people complain incessantly when there is rain. But I have to give it back to them and say, look, at least the farmers are getting some rain. I mean, it may not be because it's a different area, but
that's the thing. Is it raining on the farms?
Yeah,
that's right. We're disconnected from what's happening out there on the farms in the cities.
Absolutely.
And that's really hard, is to get to the, and that's what we found too. By doing what we did with our group, it got a lot of new people who didn't know about it involved. So, and we had a lot of people from Melbourne bring stuff up when we were going. They did all sorts of things. They were on the outskirts of Melbourne. They brought up hay. They were bringing food hampers. A big group, a whole street at Ocean Grove did a big food drive, and they brought that up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not saying like Melbourne people aren't helping. It's just that it's good that, again, they didn't have any idea. So by a new thing out there, it's reaching new people. Whereas the drought, before we heard about it last year, it had already been going on for a few years. We just hadn't heard about it. So it's sort of all the areas up there that were helping, they're all all their resources have been depleted, and now, so it's been good that each time it gets brought up, new people get on board. So because a lot of people just get burnt out, and even with our group, people are sick of hearing about it. I know that. I share stuff, and I know people are getting sick of hearing about it, but which I don't want either. But it's human nature. You hear something so often at the start, you sort of get shocked and you get concerned, and then it just gets
sensitized.
You just sort of go, oh yeah, it's still there, So, or some people just go, why don't they just sell up? And it's not that simple.
It is true. A lot of people feel disconnected from the farmers, I feel here. It feels like they're somewhere in a different country or something.
Yeah, and I don't know how you change it. It's not.
I think you said it earlier. Like the media, I don't want to talk about all media, but some media don't really focus on it. They're focusing on other topics or other.
Some quick views and move on.
It was good, that ABC breakfast show that Michael Rowland or something like he went and spent a week traveling around Queensland, New South Wales, just visiting the towns and some businesses and just seeing how they're impacted. So that was good they did that, and each day he was reporting in a different place or a farm. And so it's good when they do that, and you can see that talking to the businesses and it, like, that's the thing, that it's not just the farms that are impacted. It's so much, like even the schools, like they've people aren't paying their school fees. They can't afford to pay their kids. Haven't got a uniform. So the community groups, like people aren't even restaurants or golf clubs. Like people aren't going to go and play golf or go get your hair cut if you can't afford to feed your kids. So like the hairdressers, all these little businesses that are closing down that you just take for granted.
And everyday Australians also have to worry about where their food comes from now. Do you get poor quality imported stuff? Is it Australian stuff? And now we have to worry about that too.
Yeah, yep. So I think the impact of that, I think once, say in bigger cities, like I think it'll only really hit home when they start seeing where their food's coming from, the quality, and they'll be like, oh, what's happened? Why has this changed all of a sudden? And I think that'll be when they sort of go, oh, why didn't we do something? Is when they see, the milk quality just, and the cheaper milk now, you can see it, like it's watered down, it's got additive, you look at it and you're like, ugh. When you break it down what's in it, you're like, nah. So I think, I don't know if people just don't want to know, or they see that it's cheaper and just go, oh, that'll do, it'll be fine. But when you actually start realizing what some of the things that the additives or the things to make them cheaper, what you're actually eating and what you're giving to your families, like, you really wouldn't want to. And I think that's when you actually go, you start looking into things yourself and you see how things are done, you're like, oh God, you wouldn't want to touch it. Like it's, but I don't understand if people just, why they don't want to know. That's what sort of tricks me, is it just that there's so much else.
I think it's because people are busy with their own lives to worry about that. But then there's also, it's a hard topic. Like I had this conversation of late where I was talking to some people about where food comes from. We do tend to check where it's from. If it's, we prefer to buy Australian to help the farmers, and also the quality assurance is much better here. But most people, they just oblivious to it. They're just not interested, or it's a bit too much work. So
Yeah.
because they're busy, and I get that. But I think it's
Yeah.
going to be a point where it starts to impact your
They're
country,
distracted with
your
other
people's health.
things. They're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But,
I think once they start feeling the side effects of what's happening, that's when we're going to have a bit of an awakening, saying, "Hey, where were we for the
Yeah.
last 10 years? What we were doing?"
they might be too
I think
late.
that-
Do you think they'll be too
hopefully
late, Tanya?
That's what I'm thinking. That's honestly, that's what I think. To be honest, yeah, I mean, it's even now. There's a lot of things you can even say now. We're nearly too late to turn it around. Like even the dairy industry, it's they're every day they're closing. They're walking away, and I don't know how you bring that. And it's a lot of work to bring that back, and to get the farmers to want to come back. And
It's a real
when you
shame.
talk to them, they actually said to quite a few have said to us, they said, why are we losing? Well, but they're basically the stress related illnesses is incredible. Like they've all got cancer. They've got 6 of them have got internal bleeding from ulcers. Like they're not going to
Wow.
the doctors. And there's so much sickness, and their wives are taking on so much of the stress too. And they've all said to you, they sort of go, well, why are we doing? We're basically killing ourselves and our families and losing everything, losing our livelihood and our homes, just for for basically a lot of Australians to be appreciated. They said, why are we doing it when we're not being supported by our government? The average Australian isn't buying the more expensive. They're not looking out for the Australian grown, and so and it is true. Like, why are they putting themselves through all this if they're not being appreciated? And when they ask that to you're like, well, good question. It is a good question. Like, why would you go and put yourself through absolute hell and lose all your livelihood, your home, everything you've worked hard for some other people you've never even met? Like, who would do that? So that's I know it's their job and that too, and they love it. But at the end of the day, they're losing big time, and at what cost? So that's
Yeah, and we as a nation, we do need our own farmers. I mean, importing food, especially as a country like Australia with so many opportunities and, such a big country, we should support our own, definitely.
Yeah, yep. So,
and just with about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, there was a lot of talk about China buying up a lot of the farms. Is that still occurring?
We've seen that firsthand. So yes, and
okay,
it frustrates me, that one. And it's, if you actually look at them, say a map of Australia and how much is actually owned by China, you'd be absolutely blown away. So you should actually do that. Just go and actually to see what particularly farmland is actually owned. It's and the mass and that's the thing, people don't realise. Like they might have purchased a massive station, and you might have Australians working on it, and managing it. But people don't realise that they don't own it. It's been brought up, and no one seems to talk about it. Like the farmers, they don't want to admit that they've had to give in and sell to China. They don't want to admit that. So it's not talked about. They do it sort of behind closed doors. It's sold. They continue to manage it. The investors are overseas, and no one's any the wiser. So, but what frustrated me was one of the farmers we went to. She was doing it by herself, and realistically, I mean, she had to sell up. She's gone now, but she, at the time we went there, and I walked away just bawling my eyes out. Like, she really got to me. She had no electricity. She had no water. She had to drive an hour for a shower at a friend's house. We took food in there, and all her cupboards were emptied. She sold her furniture. Every cupboard was bare, and she was living on chook eggs, and that was it. So, and in reality, no one really cared about, in the big scheme of things, no one really cared about what was happening to her. So we sat with her and we, talked to her, and that, and she was saying that there's Chinese investors had purchased the properties all around her, all the farms, because they were all doing it tough, and they were, putting the pressure on them, and they offered them, but they're not offering them good money either. Like, they're not actually. It's just that they know that they've got to that point where they're broke, they can't afford to, make repayments, whatever it is. So they give them. It's basically an out for them. So they were putting the pressure on her, and she was the only one left that was actually in the way of owning this massive area. So they kept putting the pressure on her. And in the end, she had to give in to them, and she was so embarrassed about that to have, because that was one thing she really didn't want to do. She didn't want to give in and be owned, overseas. So in the end, she had to, but what she got for it didn't even cover what she owed, and now she's, she hasn't got a home. She won't be able to. She'll never be able to buy another one. She was sort of early 60s, so she's got no other skills except for doing farm work. So what happens to her? There's so many stories like that. So they've been brought out, and everyone's like, oh, well, that's great. They've helped them out, but they've bought it for nothing. And when you drive around, there's all these farms that are just padlocked, boarded up, and they're just sort of sitting on them. And to them, they've got the money. They don't need to be worrying about if we're in a drought. They'll just wait till it comes good again. And there's all different things they're going to do with the farms. But you just think, it's surprising how much has been purchased. And I don't know why the government letting, like other countries, you can't purchase a property. You can lease it, like let them lease it if they want to, and but not let them just come and buy up. They're going to be, they're buying up all of Australia, and no one seems to be they don't care. Like it's like the government are just getting, helping them out, and so it's a bit scary. And
it is a bit funny to see, what the Australian government is actually doing about that, or if they even care. I mean,
I don't think
it seems
care.
like they want that to happen. If they
I think
don't,
it's
they would have stopped it.
Yeah, I think it's an easy outlet for them, because if they're buying off the farms, they don't have to help these farmers. In the reality, like it's a lump of problem
actually, that's another one. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's that's something that really frustrates, and how they're going about it. I don't like how how they're going about purchasing these properties. I don't like. So and it just worries me. What happens to all these farms, and then what are they going to do with these properties? Like, I want to know that too. Like, so and they're just sort of sitting on them, and
What's the Prime Minister's position, or what's the Liberal Party's position on all that in terms of foreign ownership of farms and so forth, and even with the drought? Like, you've talked about the state government, but like, does the federal government really? Scott Morrison, has he been engaged? Does he ever comment on drought issues?
Well, as far as the China, like, I mean, when you talk to the farm, that they believe that he's actually getting some sort of kickback from it, from the Chinese buying these. So there's no reason for him to stop it. He's getting something from it. Well, that's what when you talk to all these farms, you go to the communities, and you go to their meetings. That's what he's being said. That there's some reason why it's not as, he doesn't care, because it's helping him out in different ways. So
interesting.
And as far as the as to what, there's all different stories. So I won't comment on what, but once you hear all this, it does make sense. But that's I haven't proof what he's actually doing that way. But
no evidence of that, though. No.
Yeah, but that's what they're all that's what all the discussion is when you go to these places. That's what they believe. But as far as the government, it's really hard. Honestly, it's a hard thing to say, because he he went to Dubbo, he went to the summit, the drought summit up there, and you see him. They turn up to these things. You go, oh yeah, he has a bit of a talk. He goes and looks at the farms, and then what? It's all around election time, and you hear all these great things, but what actually happens? I don't know. Nothing substantial has been done. It's all these little things. We'll give them a grant that you never hear any more about, or majority of them can't actually get these grants. So as far as what they're doing, I really don't know. And there's the water and that. There's all these talks what they're going to do, but you don't hear any more about it. So I honestly can't say what or if they're actually doing. It's and same as the farmers. Like, you talk to them, they go, they're not helping us. No one's actually helping us. So it's sort of they're relying on little groups like us,
just individual people.
And that's sort of, when you say, what help have you got? That's what they're saying. It's just, and the group that we were helping, like, they've we had a big Christmas party for them. We go, we visited them quite a few times and taken hay and food, and so many, we covered all their Christmases, everything they needed. And a lot of, when they're in tears, and they're saying, without you for the last 12 months, we would not have got through this drought. You've got us through by and we might think it's much. We're doing our best, but we can only do what we can as well. But when you, it might be a food hamper, or when we did it ourselves, it was a few $100s each food hamper. But that's a few $100s they don't have to find, and it was when their cupboards are bare, it's food that they've got that they don't have to try and find for their kids. So it's, and then we were doing food fuel vouchers as well, and when you go out in their paddocks, you might see a tractor that's parked in their paddock, and my husband's a mobile diesel mechanic, and he always says, "Oh, is there something I can help you with, to get it going?" And they said, "Oh, it's not actually anything wrong with it. It's just the fact that we've run out of fuel. We can't afford to, and they need their tractors to feed their stock and do farm work." So it's little things like that it doesn't, even if they were handing out fuel vouchers, food vouchers, practical things that they can get actually done now. They don't have to go through all these big grants. They just something that they can go to the supermarket or wherever and actually get that help they need right away, not wait for months and have to prove, what how bad they need things. It's not pretty obvious. You go to a farm, it's not rocket science. You can see they've, when you go into their kitchen, they've got nothing in their cupboards or their fridges, and it's not hard to see that they need help now, not 6 months from now. And that's all. You hear these what they're going to do, but it's a long year plan. Like one of them was a 3-year plan. I'm like, well, how's that going to help them when they can't even survive this month? It doesn't seem to be anything practical, and they need help now, or they needed it years ago. It's just frustrating when you. And I've written to a lot of, even the agricultural minister. When we were going somewhere, I said, well, they wouldn't visit Gippsland. They still haven't. I'm like, well, why don't you come with us? We had a function there for, there was over 100 farmers there. Well, come with us. Come and talk to them and actually hear their stories firsthand, and no one will come. And all I got was an email back after it had already happened and said, oh, she might send you a letter. I'm like, big deal.
What am I going to do with a letter?
Yeah. And, and even, sorry, even Charlotte wrote, she got, and Molly, they were, when we were going, I can't remember which trip it was, but we knew Scott Morrison was going around the area we were going to be, but he still wasn't actually visiting, he needed more actual hands-on. So the girls wrote a letter and they said they invited him to come with them. And again, never heard back. And and you just think, well, even something like actually, for the farmers' sake, to actually see that someone wants to listen to them, to go out and actually see firsthand, like, people in the councils, people, it doesn't have to be federal, every level, to actually go out and actually see what needs to be done and just say to them, well, right, I can offer you this, this, and this. What's a practical thing that actually, it's not hard when you go there and just think, well, what do they need? Not some long-winded thing that's going to help them, if it will help them in the future. What can you help them with now? And that's the, it's not hard to see what they need. So
absolutely.
So it's just frustrating. You don't know. You feel like just shaking them, just dragging them out there, but it's not that simple.
So would you, you're very passionate about this and you're in that rural setting, would you ever get into politics to try to address this sort of scenario?
Where we are, it's not as I wouldn't even I'm not a fan of politics, so I don't know if it.
Oh no, maybe
I know
what's needed. So
I think I'd be extremely frustrated the whole time that no one's listening to. But I don't know. I'm probably just more, as far as all the ins and outs. I'm just more I'm passionate because once you get to know these farmers, but we've got a personal relationship with them now. We're friends with them. We talk to them most days, and it's just so frustrating when they're, you're seeing grown men in tears because they can't feed their kids. It's just, you don't have to be in politics or anyone, high up to just have that human compassion to think, well, we're in a country that's supposed to be a well-off country, and you're looking at people like that who are suffering, who are taking their own lives, who are, there's so much going on, and people aren't doing anything about it. And that just, it's hard not to be frustrated when I just think, well, why aren't people caring? Why aren't we doing anything about it? It's just, it shouldn't have to be, it shouldn't have to come to this, where, we do so much for people overseas, which, yes, it's great. But right now, people in our own backyard need help too. And it seems to be that there's so much focus on, if we give another country money, like, oh, we've got to help them out for, all these reasons. But, why aren't we helping our own Australians as well? Like, there's, so much more we could be doing. And then you see these, grants given to some, absolute useless thing that, might be some big, some structure that they put there for just to look, to look at. You think, well, yeah, that's great. But
it cost a few million bucks.
Yeah, and you think, well, what could you have done with that money? So yeah,
it does make you think. I agree. It makes me think every day as well, because like I said, we spend a lot of money on stuff that I personally, I mean, I could be wrong, but personally think it's useless and pointless, and it's just a waste of money, within Melbourne, within the cities of Australia. But then our farmers that we rely on for our food, they're literally committing suicide.
Yeah, and I think there's a time and a place for things. I mean, there's artwork. I know I mightn't appreciate it. It's still someone's job too. So I get that they're doing it for a reason. But when you see people starving and it really, you go out to these places and there is people starving. We're not a third world country. Like, we shouldn't be having all these people suffering the way they are, and the stock too. Like, there's feed out. We need to be getting feed to these stock, or somehow, even if not stock, it's still, there's human suffering that need help, and
Exactly.
and the children are, they're going through hell too. Like, it's and these little kids are, as much as they love it, like they're losing their childhood too. Like, they're not, school holidays, they're out there every day helping their parents, and I know they love it, but the parents feel so guilty about, they can't afford a farmhand, and so these kids are, they're out there, from as soon as they get up in the morning, they're getting up when it's dark, and they're out there helping their parents feed out, or, it could be fencing, could be whatever, and they're coming home late at night, and same as when they come home from school, that's what they're doing, work before school, after school, and that's going to suffer, for their long term too. Like, the children are, and what they're seeing and what they're hearing, it's a lot for little kids. And I know, and I'm not, by no means is it the parents' fault. I'm not saying that at all. They're doing the best they can with what they have. But I just feel that, if we were supporting them more, they, this wouldn't, even if it was paying for their, football, some sort of things like that, or paying for them to do something, or it's some sort of government grant to help in that way, things like that. Just, they can still be, go out and do some things like that, because if you're in that way, you can't afford to be not even taking your kids to sports or different after school activities or weekends, things like that. So it's so widespread. I mean, there's so many different things, areas that need help, but and schools need help too to support these children as well. They need counsellors. There's a lot of things that they could need help with as well. And even
is that forthcoming? Is that help? Is that coming from the public school system at all?
They just don't seem to have the money. It's just not. You just even one we have is having massive trouble with bullying, and he didn't tell his parents because he was getting physically he was bruised. It was fairly full on, and he didn't tell his parents because he knew they were already worried about other stuff. And so he's been trying to get them help. There's no one to help him. There is no one to go and.
That's terrible.
And that's just one example. There's so many examples, and you just think, well, that if you had someone to advocate for him, it's just frustrating that, and on top of all that, they've got to worry about, they've got to try and go through this as well. It's just each family's got so much going on, and apart from just the drought, like there's so many ongoing effects from the health being a massive one. Like, it's and they're not doing things about it because they said, well, one, we can't afford it, and we can't afford the time off. So we've got ones that need operations, and they just won't go to the doctor. They're like, no, we can't afford, we just can't take the time off. I'm like, yeah, but you won't be here. And they're going, yeah, but we just can't do it. And that's really unheard of. If you need an operation, it's going to make you well, you go do it. But when they know that they can't afford it, and they can't expect and a lot of the wives are unwell too. Like, there's so much cancer, there's stress.
Stress is a big killer.
It's incredible. And nearly everyone you go to that is either the husband or wife is there's something going on, and and you're trying to, and farming's a massive job. Like, it's the hours are, they're endless, and there's always something. It could be even through the night, like, something carving. There's so many other aspects to it, and there's no time off. It's just constant. So if you're not well, and then you're not mentally well as well, the stress of it, it's just, it's just unforgiving. It's just, yeah. So there's no, and that's the thing. There's, if you've got something going on yourself, and you're like, well, it'll end soon. It'll be right soon. But you sort of got to that point now where I don't even say that anymore, because when is the end? I don't know. It could be, there's talk that it could be like this for another couple of years. Like the drought. So, if you're looking at that, like, what positive do you have to look at? There's not much hope to give them, really, if they feel so alone already and they're not getting help. Like, if you have to go through for, and it's not just them either. A lot of them are they're supporting their parents too. Like, they've got their, there's a couple of farmhouses on the property, so their support, because of their farm has been handed down to, the next one in line. They're also supporting, it could be the brother or the, so it's not just one family who are benefiting from this farm. They're supporting a lot of people. So it's a lot of other people to feed and to home. They've got to rehome them and work, and it's just, and even this, how do we afford a nursing home? Things like that. I mean, I know there's other ways to do it, but just things like that. There's there's so many different. I mean, you could literally talk all. I talk a lot about, but yeah.
Plus, from what I understand, there's a very large ice epidemic, a drug epidemic in a lot of rural areas. Is that happening in the drought affected areas as well?
Yeah, some is. So there's, I mean, we haven't been to them all, but the ones we've been to, like, even we took the kids, we stopped and we're buying some of the groceries there, and in the playground there's syringes in the ground at the playground. You're like, wow. It's just, you don't expect it in little places like that. But I think, and that's the thing, like, as far as the drug, they sort of got to that point where once you're into these, you go to these towns, you start talking to people there, and you sort of start realizing that a lot of these, teenagers, they're sort of, it's no excuse, but they've gone through absolutely hell with their farming families and all the things that they've seen, and they've seen their their fathers with depression, their role models, they know people who have taken their lives, and if they're not getting that support either, they're sort of I know some say it's a cop out, but they are. They're trying these drugs, and they're going,
you can see where it's going to lead to.
Yeah, and
it's not surprising, considering the situations that they're in. It's really not surprising.
And and then they could be getting paid to be dealing it, or taking it to these places. So it's it is actually becoming a bit of an epidemic in these places, and that's just another aspect of it. I mean, it's not just drought, but you sort of, when you hear the ones that are, I've heard some that are doing it, and you see them, and you're like, oh yeah, but then you hear all the whole story behind it, and you go, not that I agree with it. You can sort of see why it would get to that point if someone offered it, that and it's to them, they take it, and it makes it's a
escapism.
it makes them get their work. Yeah. So as much as I'm against it, and I don't agree with what they're doing, I can you can sort of understand how it would be. Some of them would do it. So that's just and I don't even think that's even been addressed. Like, that's just sort of there's so much more to
it all kind of goes hand in hand one with the other, so it's all kind of connected. It's not just one thing to blame, droughts or government or whatever. It just all kind of, when it comes together, it works out terrible sometimes.
And there's and the unemployment's just like, I mean, the business, I mean, every business shutting down, like, even what work is there, like, and even like the entertainment for them, like, even such as a cinema or things like, they're all shutting down. So
the pubs are shutting down.
So they're just sort of sitting there like, it's and again, what's the solution? I don't know. It's so widespread, and it's getting so big that it's sort of got to that point where it's just out of control. So much of this, and it's sort of, people say, well, how can we help? And you're like, well, it's sort of
where to start.
And then where to start, and to some things it's getting beyond us. Like, even us, like, I mean, we've sort of got to the point we're burning out too. Like I've just got my own little sewing business. My husband's works for himself as a diesel mechanic, and we were taking a lot of time off traveling around, and we pay for all our own fuel, all our own expenses, like food, accommodation, which we've always, that's what we wanted to do. We don't whatever we've been food and that gets taken directly to them, so that's why we wanted to know that whatever was given to us, it goes directly to their door, and so that was our thing we did. But after 12, more than 12 months, it starts to take its toll on us as well. You're like, well, it's physically demanding, and it's my husband ended up in hospital when we were at Gippsland just from the stress, and you keep going, and then you're hearing all their stories when they're going through depression, and we're not trained in it. We just we're just doing our best we can when we're trying to help them when no one else is, and you sort of, once you get to that point, you realize you ask, like over Christmas I was in bed for 6 weeks. I just couldn't get out of bed. You just sort of, you get to that point where you go and you give everything, and then you just burn out. And you're like, I had nothing left to give, and then you sort of, and people are like, you got to put yourself first, and that, which I get all that, but yes, at the same time I'm like, but who's going to help them? When they're ringing me and that, and you can't get others to help them, you sort of go, well, it's easy to say that, but and that's happening with so many other people too. Other people that we've like the guy at Gippsland we've been helping, he's exactly the same, and he's not, and you sort of go, well, it's great that we're doing it and all these little people are doing it, but why aren't the bigger people? Everyone's going to burn out. Yeah, everyone's going to get to the point where we and we just can't afford it anymore either. We just can't afford to keep doing it, and much as we want to, we just physically can't, because if we're not, if he's not working, we're not going to, we've still got our own house to pay, all these other things too, and that's happening to so many people. And you think, well, if all these little groups burn out, what's going to happen then? I just, if there's no one left to help them, it's a bit scary. And you think, and I think that's what we're all feeling too. We've sort of, some groups have been going for 3 years, or more, and it's, you sort of got to the point where we've burnt out people that want to help us. They're like, oh, we've done our bit, sort of thing, which is fair enough too. Everyone's got their own things going on, and people, and it sort of impacted a lot of people in different ways. So people are sort of being tighter with their money, or they haven't got that extra to give. So it shouldn't be solely on the little people wanting to help either. Like, there needs to be, whether it be bigger organisations that get on board, or, something else needs to be done.
So in summary, the drought is an impact, and from that, health impacts on the family, the mental health, the physical health. You've got the drug economic impacts. You've got the drug impact, and the only people that are really helping, from what you're saying, is the small Lions type groups, you guys, small groups, small charity type groups, and no real pragmatic assistance from governments. It sounds like what you're saying. That's kind
not
of
that we're
is that
saying
right
anyway. Yeah, not that we're saying, if there is, we're not seeing it, we're not hearing about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, there's there's obviously, and we're only on a small scale, so there's obviously people doing bigger things and that we might hear about too. But just from what we've seen and what we're hearing and where we've gone, and for 12 months, it's been the same stories over and over again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, if there was bigger organizations helping, then the farmers that you speak to would know about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So we're not. Yeah, that's the thing. You're not hearing it. So if they are, and you're pretty sure that there'd be some sort of publicity out of it. So it's unless we're missing it.
Yeah.
But so
I think it seems to me like it is all just publicity, but nothing's really happening when it comes to those big organizations.
Well, that's a frustrating bit. Like, we've seen firsthand that you see all these big stories, and a lot of them are writing their own stories and putting it in the paper or telling this to the media. They're saying all these things they're doing, but no one actually follows it up. It sounds good on paper, and you're like, oh wow, that sounds great. And then you say that, you go and you think, but what did they actually do? And we've spoken to some of them. You're like, but what did And they they don't know how to answer. You're like, well, it's on the TV, it's in the newspapers. You hear it all across the board. Lots of different groups that they might be promoting their business or saying that we've done this and we've done that, but who actually follows it up? Like, that's what sort of you start seeing that a lot. Like a lot of times, just keep and so many of these other little groups, the same thing. But they say, we've been used to get to get their leg up and make them look good, and say they've done all this, but they say they're going to do it, and you never hear from them again. But they've got their 5 minutes of fame out of it, and you're like, oh yeah, that's good, but what next sort of thing. So, and that's it's happened to us, and it's happened to every single one that we've every other group that we know of. So it's just it's frustrating, but and the sad thing is it's a lot. It's how it all works too. So it'd be just nice if there's more genuine, actual people in it for the right reasons who are genuinely want to help, and I'm sure there is that we don't hear about too. So I'm not saying they're all all bad, but just some
Well, Tanya, in case there are some people that want to reach out to you or anyone else here, what is the best way to contact either yourself, or can you suggest someone if somebody else wants to actually help out and feels like doing their part?
Currently, like I can. It depends. I mean, it depends where they are too. That depends. That makes a big thing. But for a start, you can join our Facebook group and see what we're doing, and then you can. Yep. I can put you in contact with the one at the moment. I'd like to see a bit more help is this Ray at the Hayfield Lions Club. He's taking a lot on and doing a lot by himself.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
The Hayfield Lions Club.
Hayfield Lions Club, okay.
And Tanya, just do you want to mention your Facebook page just for those that haven't come across it yet?
Yep, it's Charlotte's Drought Journey. So it's a Facebook group. It's called so just look up Charlotte's Drought Journey. And then and things pop up all the time that people might want help or a group wants help, and I can so it depends where you are. I could put you in touch with an area that might be close to you, or something that you could do, or even if it's if you can't offer financial support, even if it's and we don't take any money directly, because we're not an organisation, but we can put you on to different people, or even people have been writing to some of our farmers, and they might send a fuel card or something if they want to help them directly, so then that goes directly to their farm.
And things such as food, or are they also items that people tend to take up?
And again, that's sort of it's people are getting burned out doing it. So it's what we try and do is we try and like the group at Goffs Bay, they did a big fundraiser for us and it was 22,500, I think it was. So I just whenever we we bought them some of the farmers' work boots, we bought different food items and stuff, and so we just they just paid for it. We just said what we needed, and they paid for it, and then we took it to them. So, but a lot of the things we wanted actually it would be good to instead of buying it where you are is actually to get it spent in their towns. So we'd go to through a town that was struggling, so we pretty much cleared out their whole fruit and veg in one little place that was people weren't buying stuff, so we got all fresh produce, and then we went and distributed that to the farms we were going to. So it all depends what you're doing, where you are, and there's so many different areas. It can be things you can do.
Is it maybe best to just say perhaps people contact yourself through the Facebook page, and then you can
I can direct
advice on where to go.
Yeah. It just depends what they.
We'll link all the details underneath of this video as well, and we encourage anybody that has any opinions or anything to say about it to actually do so in the comments, be it on YouTube or our site. Anyway, I think it's really good to get some exposure to this issue. I mean, I myself, and I'm sure you as well, TMac, I wasn't aware of I should say, to the extent that this actually affects our farmers here.
And
it's very
sorry.
Go on, you go, Tanya.
No, I was going to say, and I've only covered a small area. There's so much more too. So it's So even encourage everyone to do their own research too, and get out there and see for yourself and see firsthand what you could do. And there could be something that we're not thinking of, that's something simple that you could do, or you could offer advice.
Yeah, let's get the conversation going. Exactly. And if there is something we can do, we can figure it out.
Yeah.
Real conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any businesses you want to plug?
Again, it just depends where you're going through, as in to support. I mean,
or just in general, anything you want to mention, even something personal that you might have, whatever the case.
Even if it's your business or whatever.
Yeah. Even United Petroleum, they helped us out. They got the fuel cards, like when other ones were contacted, and they didn't want. So if you, I know it's not necessarily helping farmers, but they did come forward and $30,000 worth of fuel cards. So that's so
it's more than a lot of others have, I guess.
Yeah. So there's
It's great.
There's, if you're in the, say, Gippsland area, buy the Gippsland farmers milk. There's a lot of different products that you can buy in Melbourne supermarkets, things like that. Isuzu Trucks Australia, they were fantastic. They gave us a brand new truck for 3 months. They paid for the fuel for us to take hay. So, that was no small thing either. So, it's just, and there's so many little places that businesses have helped along the way. It's just, and the, a big thing that people that businesses that need help with the stock and station agents, the little agricultural supply businesses, like they're letting farmers book up all their stuff, like there might be stock feed or their things for their farm, but they're not getting paid back either. So what we were doing too is if anyone wanted to offer us money, we just said, well, we'll go to an area and you can just pay off a farmer's, pay off some of their debt. So that was a great help too. So then you're also helping the business to, get back some of their money. And, we had, with farmers we knew. So we just say, we ring up this, businesses and say, well, if you want to donate money, that's a direct one that's going to help them. The stuff they need, and you're also helping the business. So there were, I think like their business is Ag and Vet. They're all over the place, but they were great with us. Just ringing up and saying, you throw this, we went and someone went from our place from Mansfield donated, I think it was $300 in one hit and said, so we went and bought, they paid for sheep pellets and we just go and distribute them. So, they're, as far as little businesses, there's probably too many to mention off the top of my head over 12 months, but there's just, but the United Petroleum, they stood out just because they just, no worries. There was no sort of, no humming and hawing and taking forever. So, and Isuzu and but even the smaller, when you go through town, just if you're going on a camping holiday, don't go to your bigger supermarket chains. Go to your little IGA, the independent supermarkets, places like that. They're the ones that seem to be doing the actual helping the farmers. They're the ones doing the helping out for raffles, things like that. And go to your little butchers. Don't just go to the butcher section in the supermarket. Go to the actual butchers. The produce stores. You get your fresh fruit and veg in the little places. If you're going through these places, do your shopping in the and get your coffee and things like you were surprised that people don't realize the impact that makes. Even just to the community spirit too. Like you go and they're just such lovely people. You go in there to these little places and everyone talks to you. You walk down the street and they're all talking. Everyone knows everyone. They're all talking to you and the kids love it too. Like it's good for you. I think, that's the biggest thing we've got to have it too with our children is to see how it's changed them and to, that giving into when you go and meet these country kids, they get out of the car. There's no awkwardness and, they just straight out of the car, off they go, off plane. And, they're experiencing things that we're in the country here, but it's nothing like, it's different sort of, it's different. It's more remote and they're just the loveliest people. Like, they do anything for everyone else, and everyone we've gone to, they're saying, when we're getting better, we're back on our feet, we'll come down and help you guys out. We'll do something for your community, and all they're wanting to do is give back, constantly when they already do so much as it is. So I think that's a big thing to take on too. Is that they're just the loveliest, most genuine people you'll ever meet. And you're helping your family keep going. It's not, it's not a big business. It's a family. It's a farm. It's their life that you're supporting.
There's a face to it,
yeah. Not a big corporate business. Yep.
Yeah.
So which makes it more personal, I think. So hope I've been able to answer you.
Thanks for your time, Tanya. Thanks for your time today for shedding some light on this subject that I've learned a lot. I'm sure Joe's learned a lot, and hopefully others out will listen to this and learn a lot more about it and what they can do about it practically and assist. So thank you.
No, thank you very much for asking me on today. It's great that you want to listen and you want to put it out there, and it's fantastic that you did that. So thank you.
Thanks, Tanya.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Tanya.
Bye.